Am I the asshole for screaming at my autistic brother to get away from me? I, 27F, grew up with an older brother, 30M, who has special needs. My parents doted on him and taught me to put his needs above all else. Growing up, I never felt important. Everything I did was for my brother. I got high marks, my mom would say it's for my brother. I won a high jump competition, my brother got to keep the medal. My presents were suited for his needs. Nothing was ever mine. And I was never allowed to touch any of his stuff because that might upset him. Needless to say, I came to harbor a sort of frustration, maybe even resentment, toward this setup. I knew it wasn't my brother's fault, but I couldn't help hating him. I knew better to take it out on my brother or my parents who were really just trying their best. So I moved out as soon as I hit college. I felt so free ever since. I visit them twice a year, for maybe a couple days each time, and therefore don't mind the treatment as much as before. Well, this past Christmas, they decided to surprise me. They came over to my place unannounced and stayed for almost a month. Either all the pent-up childhood frustrations compounded or his behaviors got worse, but I snapped by the end because he rummaged around my stuff and broke something every day, some expensive, some of sentimental value. That last time, he broke the door to my room and ruined a lot my treasured possessions. I screamed at him to get away from me and that I don't ever want to see him ever again. I think I even said something along the line of wishing he never existed. My screaming upset my brother, and my words hurt my parents. He threw a tantrum, my parents were stressed. I made a mess. My mom has been calling every day telling how sorry she is that I felt that way, but I shouldn't have held on to such cruel sentiments. She cries for hours on the phone. My dad called a couple of times telling me how disappointed he was in me and how insensitive I had been. I feel extremely guilty, but at the same time, I meant every word I said. I knew it was out of my brother's control. I knew he probably didn't mean any ill. But none of the excuses matters to me anymore. Man, I really don't know about this one. Weirdly, I think the biggest asshole move here is showing up at somebody's place unannounced and staying for a month. That's just crazy. Not the asshole. They came for a surprise visit to stay for a month? Your parents are such huge assholes. They were bad enough to make you sacrifice your childhood to accommodate your brother's special needs, but to invade your home for a month? They are so far out of line I don't think the line's even visible from where they ended up. Not the asshole. Also, I am very, very sorry to tell you this, but I don't think your parents came to spend a month with you because they missed you. They came to gauge you to take care of your brother in the future. Your mother's crying has to do with realizing that that plan just went up in smoke, and your father's guilt-tripping is an attempt to salvage it. I understand the guilt, but be forewarned. They want you to be the future caretaker. Am I the asshole for choosing my dog over my family by refusing to accommodate my girlfriend's brother? I, 23M, lived with my girlfriend, Anne, 22F, and my dog, Bo. Recently Anne's brother, Al, 25M, got laid off from work and couldn't afford to pay rent anymore. Anne asked if Al could stay with us and I didn't see why not. Anne isn't on speaking terms with her parents and I assumed Al probably also wasn't and didn't have another place to go. Plus I really loved Anne and I wanted to show her how important she was to me. Here is the issue. Anne told me Al had a mild dog allergy. When I initially spoke with both of them I said I would do my best to accommodate but would not, under any circumstances, get rid of Bo. Both understood and Al said his allergy wasn't too bad. Al moved in and to be honest he wasn't a great roommate. He didn't seem to be in a hurry to move out, as he spent most of his time sleeping and playing video games instead of looking for work. He didn't pitch in for chores and let laundry pile up in his room, then acted confused when I told him he had to do his own laundry. He ate the food we cooked but did not help with cooking or buying groceries. Worst, he ordered lots of fast food for himself and left wrappers, bags, and old food in his room which made the whole apartment smell. After a month or so, Al said his allergies were getting worse and asked me to consider putting Bo in a shelter. I said absolutely not, but Anne said we should consider getting rid of Bo to accommodate her brother's needs. I said no and we would not be discussing this further. She called me the asshole for choosing my dog over my family. That's when I snapped. I said Al is not family and he has been nothing but a hassle for the past month, and that if she wants to babysit her older brother she can find her own place. She has no legal right to stay here because my name is on the lease and I pay rent. Anne is in grad school and does not make enough money to afford a decent apartment on her own. She tried again to convince me that I should prioritize Al over Bo, so I gave her an ultimatum. Either Al is gone in 24 hours or I kick both of them out. Bo stays no matter what. Both have since moved out, and while Anne and I are not officially broken up, I haven't heard from her in a few days. I know this may sound harsh, but Bo is my family. He has been with me through some of my hardest times and he is a rescue, which means he was already abandoned once, and I will not let that happen again. I feel nothing for Al and, while I thought I loved Anne, her willingness to get rid of someone I love as much as her, made my feelings change. When I explained this to my parents and sister, however, they said I should have at least considered getting rid of Bo to accommodate Al, and that they could even take care of Bo themselves so he didn't have to go to a shelter. They said if I saw Anne as family, which I did at one point, I should be able to make sacrifices. But that was a sacrifice I wasn't willing to make. Does that make me taw? And #X200B. Edit. Lol, I realized I used both Amy and Anne for my GF's name. None are her real name. Sorry for confusion. Not the asshole. Everything you said was accurate. Honestly, y'all aren't together anymore. Kicking her out was breaking up with her, and good for you. She's clearly heartless to consider putting your dog in a shelter for a lame roommate who could have taken an allergy pill. Not the asshole. If she loves you, she never would have asked you to get rid of your dog. She's prioritizing her brother over you, and your feelings. You're probably better off just moving on, and finding someone who wants the same things out of life. Your family is also wrong, and I'm honestly not sure why they would take her side. Some people just don't care as much about animals, which is very sad. Animals are better than most people I've met. Bo would never ask you to throw out someone you love for some freeloader. You chose well. Not the asshole. Would I be the asshole for refusing a large cash gift on behalf of my children? My two kids are 15F and 13F. My dad very unceremoniously left our family when I turned 20. He wasn't a bad guy necessarily. To him, he fulfilled his obligation to raise me to an adult and wanted to cut ties and live his own life because he became a father very young. In the 25 years since he left, he's lived his dream with lots of travel. I know it shouldn't have affected me as much as it did, since I was an adult, but it devastated my mom and he promised he'd keep in touch with all of us. He never did. Since then, I've only spoken to him 4 or 5 times and I haven't met him. My mom has never spoken to him again. This was all on his end. We tried to no avail. When I had kids of my own, we didn't pretend I didn't have a dad or he passed or anything like that. I was always forthright and told my daughters that he decided not to be a dad anymore and it hurt Grandma and me deeply. If my kids had any questions, I told them the truth with how it affected us, but also more menial things like how he was, who he was, and so on. My kids have a generally negative view of him and they came to their own conclusions given all the facts with no hyperbole or sugarcoating. He emailed me to talk on the phone last week and he told me he's dying with stage 4 lung cancer. We talked a bit about him leaving and he said he doesn't regret his decision because his life was taken from him. He said he respects that I turned into a well-adjusted adult and he's proud that I've got so far, even without him, but that he doesn't love me and has no intention of seeing me before he goes. He did say, however, that he is dividing his assets between a few close friends and wanted to leave $25,000 each to both of my kids. He was a penny pincher but still lived modestly. He only ever worked to maintain, never to grow, so I don't doubt this is a large chunk of his total assets. He said it's only right that they get this money because they're his only grandchildren. I'm conflicted because accepting this money means, at least how my brain rationalizes it, that I forgive him or that it's okay or healthy to have lived how he did. I don't want my kids to get a lump sum and suddenly have a change of heart about him. I'm thinking of refusing the money on their behalf because it sets a bad example. My wife stands by my decision. But would I be the asshole to my kids for taking this choice from them? They don't know about it and my plan is to keep them in the dark about it, possibly forever. YWBTA. I don't want my kids to have a change of heart about him. You said it yourself. You want to preserve your kids' negative opinion of him. That's very selfish of you. You want to ensure he dies without ever having done one single nice thing for your kids. Out of spite, you're going to punish your kids because of being mad at your father. And, if your kids ever find out, you're the one they'll be mad at. Sounds like a bad idea to me. YWBTA. $25K for each is no petty change, they'd have a safety net to start in life. You shouldn't be punishing your kids for, understandably very grave, mistake someone else made, and they may come to resent you if they find out in the future. Am I the asshole for making my brother come in through the garage instead of the front door? I recently moved in with my boyfriend, who lives in a house instead of an apartment. He has a rule that if it has been snowing, everyone needs to enter through the garage instead of the front door, and they need to take their snow gear off before they come inside. When my brother came over to see me the other day, he wanted to come in through the front door. He said the only people you make enter through a garage are little kids and workmen. I explained that my boyfriend was worried about the wood floors. My brother stared at me like I was crazy and asked if he needed to buy us a mop. Since I so recently moved in, and it is his house, I feel it is important to adapt to this rule. It's not like there's a dozen of them. My brother ended up not coming inside. My brother says he is disappointed in me and my boyfriend has changed me, but a door is a door. I think he was being stubborn and petty. Then again, he thinks the same thing about me. Not the asshole. I bet it's a older brother who is used to telling you how things are done. He has a rule that if it has been snowing, everyone needs to enter through the garage instead of the front door. It's nothing against him. Everyone follows this rule. He's just being stubborn for no reason. Not the asshole. How can following one simple rule be a sign of you being changed by your BF? Lol. In ta. How old is tour brother? 7? I don't want come through the garage because I'm a big boy. If a house owner tells me which entrance I should use, I will use that entrance. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Has your brother never heard of a mudroom? It is extremely common in places where it snows a lot for people to enter through the garage or a side door so they can take off their outer clothes and boots before entering the clean part of the house. It sounds like your brother has some weird classist hang-ups.